Monday, July 14th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Eventually, we get to talking a bit about Scott's new iPhone.
Let's do this.
So, for the past week at work, I've been confronted with a somewhat difficult and amusing problem.
How difficult and amusing could it be?
Well, you
Because I'm
see,
not laughing yet.
I'd complained a while ago about how I was having trouble with time synchronization in like VMware.
Is this like all you do is set clocks? You're the professional clock setter? You get paid that much money to set clocks?
Actually, there is a lot more to my job, but because I built the entire NTP infrastructure, I also maintain it and improve it.
But does it really have to be maintained and improved that often? I mean, NTP is kind of kind of thing where you set it up and you just leave it be for months and months and months.
For one, the only maintenance I do at all is I have a report that gets generated that I wrote a script that does this periodically that figures out what NIST time servers stopped responding because, NIST changes their time servers up every now and then. And a lot of times, some NIST time servers just won't freaking work. Like, they'll just be broken for a month or so.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to keep track of that to make sure that all the different time servers, like the core time servers, at least have 4 or 5 NIST sources.
Isn't there a server you can use that does a DNS round robin so you never have to worry?
That would be completely beside the point. It would actually break NTP.
Why?
For reasons I don't want to get into.
All right.
But what you do is you point the server at like 5 or 6 NIST servers, and I point them to DNS names. The issue is just sometimes the servers go down. So I have a report that figures that out, and then I change them accordingly. That's the only manual intervention. The system is otherwise run without a hitch and without a single point of intervention from me since I built it.
So why is... Okay.
Well, the issue is, like I said, we want to have a lot of virtual servers now for like, QA, testing, all the kinds of things where we don't need a full-on server, but we want this kind of virtualized environment. We want VMware and all these other solutions, but as I discovered, basically, you cannot have accurate time in a fully virtualized machine. It is just impossible. And what bothers me is that all the people who make virtual solutions are pretty upfront about that. Except VMware. They dance around that issue. They say, oh yeah, it works just fine. Just install VMware tools. And I've talked to a lot of their engineers, and I've escalated things all over the place. And the end result is, and if anyone wants to challenge me on this, I'm willing to back it up. VMware can't do accurate time for shit.
All right, so you did a whole episode on this before. Where's the new bits?
So... we're using Zen now, which does paravirtualization, and it's working real well. Perfect time.
Zen's pretty good. There's one thing that's a little bit newer, better maybe than Zen, but Zen is where it's at right now.
Well, Zen is awesome, partly because the way Red Hat's doing it now is with these kind of standardized wrappers around it. So I don't need to learn Zen. I only need to know these Red Hat standardized things, and it works really, really well. But the issue I had was that in order to decide for sure, well, are we going to do VMware? Are we going to do this? Like, what is our rationale for our business decisions? And also, what are we going to tell VMware and see if we can kind of weasel a discount out of them on their bad time system?
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't just, I know the time is bad. I was asked to provide a statistically verifiable measure of how bad the time was. Now, riddle me this. How does a server in and of itself know if its own time is bad if it can't trust its own hardware clock?
It can't.
Yes, so I was tasked with coming up with clever ways around this.
What do you mean? You can't unless you have some source of correct time. You don't know if your time is correct or not.
First I wrote a script, right? On a server
if you know
that
your time was correct at some other time, then...
No, there's plenty of ways to do this.
All right.
So first, I wrote a clever script that ran on a server that knew the time, and what it would do is query the other server, ask it what it thought the time was, and made this nice sort of graph of how off the time got. Mm-hmm. And that worked okay, but I ran into some asymmetric latency issues on the network. So all I did was I turned off all the BS and all the kind of clock catch-up mechanisms, and I just ran NTP Tinker Mode 0, and I got these nice graphs, and I figured out exactly how off the time got. I figured out what was causing the time to get off. I figured out what sorts of things made the time fall behind more or less, and I pretty much proved exactly the differences between all the different systems. And that was fine. And then I was told, all right, the last thing we need to do is figure out how bad it is on Windows. And good God, is it not easy to deal with Windows in time? Because Windows servers just don't care what time it is.
No, I mean, what does Windows give a shit?
Well, it does for Kerberos, but the little-known secret is that while Kerberos requires accurate clocks, most Windows domains will pretty much just, all the hosts, if the time is off, will just kind of synchronize the time to the person they're trying to authenticate to, and then authenticate.
Yeah, because it's all about doing something that gets the job done. And, if you're someone who just wants to log in, then that gets the job done. It logs you in, and that's all they care about.
So I finally figured out how to actually deal with, because, you can run NTP on a Windows box, but there are some issues with that. So instead, I figured out how to actually configure W32 time you can actually tell that to point at an NTP server, and there's all these crazy internal options in the registry.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured all that out, and I set all that up. And then I discovered the joy of Windows debugging, and I enabled all 116 log levels of W32 time. And let me tell you, there's some cryptic bullshit in there.
Uh-huh.
But basically, if anyone is interested, all I discovered was that if you run a Windows box in Zen, it's fully virtualized. There's no such thing as para-virtualized Windows in these sorts of situations.
Well, they have that. Microsoft has the new thing. What's it called? I forget, but it's a new thing.
Yes, but that's separate. Like, if you're using Zen or VMware, you can't have a para-virtualized system because you need access to the kernel. You need a special kernel.
I thought Zen was Linux only.
Well, no, you can run a Windows.
Really?
Just fine. The thing is, it fully virtualizes it.
Oh.
And under the covers, I actually like it a lot more than VMware, but it kept the time a little bit better than VMware in Windows, but it was still shit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's pretty much, unless you use the Windows thing, there's no way to keep accurate time in a Windows virtual machine. And after all this research, here's the part you might care about. My professional opinion, I have to clarify that I say nothing about the company VMware, its future, or anything like that, because there's a lot in the works for VMware besides this specific thing. But VMware is kind of crap for server virtualization if you care about performance. It's great for desktop virtualization. If you're like a developer and you need a bunch of just, images to test your web stuff on, it's great. But for running a server, it's kind of ass, and I think Zen is a lot better.
Well, I think the thing is that it's very few people who are running, VMware that actually need performance.
Are you kidding?
Or exact time.
Are you
kidding? Anything like that.
Do you know how many giant corporations use gigantic VMware clusters to host all their servers virtually?
Yeah, but those servers are like a web server or, something like that where VMware is just fine.
Well, one, it's not, and a lot of these people run into a lot of problems, but they don't realize that the VMware time is what's causing the problems.
Like what kind of problem?
What's
wrong with running just a normal web server in a VMware?
It depends on exactly how you've got it set up, and I couldn't go into all the different possibilities, but depending on how the time is jumping and what's going on, your logs might get out of sync, or like web servers will just crash because the requests coming in are weird. Or if you're running an SSH or something, it just won't work.
The thing is, most people just care about, does the web page get served? And it's pretty much going to get served.
Actually, no. A lot of people are using virtual servers for much more intensive things. And there are ways to make these VMwares work better, but they're semi-undocumented and kind of fiddly. But beyond that, I've used kind of all that VMware has to offer, all their sort of management systems and the hypervisor stuff and how to do it, and the good enterprise workflows. And it doesn't really work so well. And under the covers, it's kind of counterintuitive and crap, and it's fiddly. And I gotta say, with Zen, there's an image file or an image partition and one configuration file that is totally straightforward, and everything just works. And it works so much better than VMware. So my professional recommendation, if you're out there and you need to use some sort of virtualization, you're probably better off with Zen or user mode Linux.
Well, user mode Linux is sort of old and slow also. I mean, our hosting that we use for, our stuff, our personal stuff, is switching from user mode Linux to Zen because...
That's mostly because what Zen has over virtual or user mode is just that there's better management tools, basically.
Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway.
That's what I spent my day doing.
Great. I don't know. Do I have anything to say? Not really. Let's get some news action going on. So,
Hey, I don't feel like you're getting enough sleep lately, you know.
how am I not getting enough sleep?
I don't know. You've been cranky for the last few days.
How am I cranky?
I don't know. Just you poo-poo everything. You're kind of...
Why do you always... I don't know. I don't do anything different. And then just, like every couple weeks, you'll be like, Scott, you're all cranky. And then the next week, you won't say anything. And then the week after that, you're like,
Because you know
Scott,
what?
you're
The
cranky.
next week, you weren't cranky.
Whatever.
It's like this week you're cranky, but 2 weeks ago, not cranky.
You know what? You're all pointing out I'm cranky.
Yes, I am. At least I admit it.
I'm not any, I don't have any weirdness going on. All right.
Are you sure?
Yes. The only weirdness I have going on is being pestered by you. I guess.
Sure you're not huffing?
Yeah. Yeah, not with the huffing. Okay. And I'm puffing though. Definitely okay. So
I'm a huffer, Jerry. Not a puffer, but I'm a huffer.
all right. So today was like the E3, which I thought the E3 was dead, and I know it's
No.
Monday. What?
It wasn't dead. It was clearly not dead. It turned into this kind of exclusive thing that only the press cared about and the industry.
Yeah, but it's not the big extravaganza it used to be. It's much more subdued. Yet it seems to be a little bigger than this one. Seems to be a little bigger than the last one. There's more action, more announcements that are significant. And it really does seem like all the stuff that the professionals didn't want was offloaded to PAX and such. So today they announced, among other things, I'm not going to talk about the non-gaming related. I'm not going to talk about the gaming related ones because it's not Tuesday, but Microsoft announced that the Xbox is basically going to be able to do everything the Roku does. If you have the Live Gold, which if you have an Xbox, you have the Live Gold, because otherwise, what's the point, really? So this is pretty interesting now, I think, because suddenly people who buy Xboxes might be encouraged to subscribe to the Netflix.
If they haven't already.
If they haven't already.
Which I think a lot of people have.
And people with the Netflixes might go get Xboxes instead of Rokus. It's sort of like that old... Because think about this, right? The PS2, really, in the United States, the reason that the PS2 took off crazily was because it came out at a time when DVD had already won. People knew DVD was the winner. It was the next best thing. It was set. But the DVD player hadn't covered the market yet. There were a lot of people who needed DVD players and wanted DVD players, but didn't have them yet, and they were expensive.
Not only were they expensive, but there weren't even like knockoff brands yet. Like the only ones that were out there were the kind of like Sony super expensive.
Yeah.
Check out my DVD.
It's sort of like HD DVD players are now. There aren't $60 HD DVD players either. Blu-ray players.
They're the same.
There's only expensive ones, right? So DVD was like that, and the PS2 came onto the scene, and it was like $200 or $300, but it was also a game console and a DVD player, and it took over.
In fact, the first DVD player in my house was a PS2.
Right, and Sony tried the same exact thing with the PS3. They used the same logic, which wasn't a bad logic. It worked the first time. The problem is that they didn't put out, the Blu-ray PS3 at a time when Blu-ray had won. Everyone already wanted a Blu-ray player. They just didn't own one yet because they were a little too expensive and they didn't buy them yet.
See, at the same time, I feel like they were trying to go in the other direction. They were trying to use both to prop each other up. It's like they wanted to put the Blu-ray PS3 together because the gamers will buy it and bolster Blu-ray, and the Blu-ray people will buy it and bolster the PS3, and they kind of faltered on both regards.
Right.
And Blu-ray only won because HD...
Blu-ray didn't win. HD DVD died.
Well, no.
Blu-ray still lost.
No, I got to mutter. Blu-ray winning that is like... I was going to make a horrible joke, so I'm going to avoid that. It's like if Glass Joe and Gabby J had a fight. Yeah, Gabby J won, but that doesn't mean much.
No, because, even though the Blu-ray might have been the better physical, optical, disc media format of high-definition video, no one wants Blu-ray. People want downloading and digital and all that action. That's the real winner. Blu-ray is just sort of like... DVD is still way more popular than anything else, right?
Sadly, Blu-ray is actually... Sales are... they're really low, but they're a lot higher than I expected. I'll admit that.
Yeah, but they're not enough to make it go anywhere.
No, well, the thing is, I feel like by the time...
They're in like Betamax levels. A lot of people had Betamax. A lot of it sold.
I think what a lot of people...
It didn't get anywhere.
Don't realize
it's like 8-track tapes. A lot of them sold, didn't get anywhere.
Well, no, what a lot of people don't realize is that the the cycle of technology for these sorts of media, there haven't been that many iterations of video media, period. I mean, look, there was proprietary professional stuff, VHS Betamax, Laserdisc, DVD. How many generations is this? It's not that many. And because technology is moving so fast, the amount of time that one will exist on the market before something better comes along and incremental improvements decreases faster and faster and faster, and incremental improvements come faster and faster to where, all right, so it made a lot of sense to develop DVD and sell it because DVD was going to be around for a while and it was so much better than anything else. But then Blu-ray is an incremental improvement. And Blu-ray, look how long it took for something to be better enough than DVD to where anyone even wanted to switch.
And it's not better enough.
Well, it was for some people, for enough people to where it's making do for now.
Sony's not exactly hanging with Uncle Moneybags.
I think Blu-ray sales are higher than you think.
Yeah, but they're not high enough. It's not. They haven't come anywhere near what DVDs took off.
Well, part of the reason for that, I think, is that it still took a while for DVD to kind of get into people's homes. Even after it won, it took a long time.
Yeah, but look, people don't even have HD TVs, and people who do have HD TVs, a lot of them don't have them hooked up properly. So HD, while it's out there more than it was, and it's definitely.
Oh, but I'm not even talking about that. What I'm saying is that DVD came out, and because technology didn't advance so quickly in that realm, DVD had a long time to become completely ubiquitous. But now Blu-ray won. Gabby J beat Glass Joe. But Piston Honda and Soda Popinski are right there on the horizon. There's already better formats than Blu-ray. And by the time Blu-ray starts to get any momentum, there's going to be 10 more better formats. And in the end, the investment in a physical media is just going to be overshadowed by broadband and downloading.
Yeah, really, optical storage mediums, I think, are going to be reduced to, say, personal backups and those sorts of things.
Except even then, the technology is moving so fast that any one standard becomes obsolete almost immediately.
Because everyone's buying NASs and stuff. Look at the Drobo. Look at the Apple's Time capsule thingy.
Plus, the Memristor, I'm not going to talk about it, but there was that
That's not coming for a while.
No, but there was that somewhat speculative, somewhat dubious, but yet very popular story on Slashdot about how we might see the earliest Memristor products and embedded devices as early as 2009.
Yeah, give it some years. It's going to be a while.
Well, they were saying we might have it pretty quick because the research has been moving along faster than anyone expected.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. The point is that NASs and, things like the streaming video are definitely the real winners here. And the Xbox, which started out just being, video games primarily with a little bit of media action going
notice
on.
how Microsoft was like, HD DVD add-on.
Now they're like, aha, now the downloads are here. Netflix ahoy.
Now think about this. PS3, they had to put this physical thing, cost a lot of money. The PS3 cost a shit ton, and a lot of that was because of the Blu-ray. Xbox, all they have to do is update the firmware.
And they're dropping the price to $300 for the big Xbox.
And the thing is, the Roku, as it is awesome.
So think about this, right? Xbox 360, $300 now, right? Roku, $100. That means the game part of the Xbox 360, all the non-Netflix part, $200. Cheaper than Wii. Look at that math. You like that?
Now, what they're probably going to do, if I were Microsoft and if I were Netflix, what I would do is do crazy promotion to get Xbox people to buy into Netflix.
Netflix has got to put Xboxes in all their little envelopes, and Microsoft has got to put Netflixes in all their games.
What I would do is I would offer a no DVD plan only to Xbox people. If you have an Xbox Gold, I'd say you can buy it in the Xbox store.
Netflix for $5 a month?
Yes.
Or Netflix, you pay Microsoft points to get Netflix?
Yes, you just buy it, and it's in the Xbox Gold or whatever. And if you have Gold, you get a discount. If you have Silver, you don't get a discount.
Well, no, because apparently what they're doing is you can only get this thing right now. What's really happening is if you have to have Gold. If you don't have Gold, you got nothing. And you have to have Netflix. So
that's even better because that forces you to upgrade to Gold if you didn't, which I know a lot
Everyone uses the Gold.
No. You know who doesn't? There are a lot of people who really only play single-player games who got an Xbox because they like gaming, but a lot of older people, like people like in the 5 years older than Rim and Scott demographic. They don't have Xbox Gold because they don't play games with people. They play by themselves.
Nah.
Those people will eventually want it. They're either going to force those people to get gold, which might get them to buy into gaming more and get even more invested in the Xbox, or later they'll offer it for the silver people. You just have to pay more. But if I were them, the cross promotion would be painfully apparent.
Yeah. It looks like the Xbox is definitely going somewhere. The thing that gets me, right, is like, okay, the only reason I don't have an Xbox, to be perfectly honest, is because I don't have an HDTV. And the reason I don't have an HDTV is I don't have a house to put it in. Well, I mean,
Yes.
But
it sounds dumb, but we could buy an HDTV, but for the size of our living room, we need a certain like size and
we have to
kind and all
mount it
that.
on the wall. I'm going to pay someone to mount this thing on the wall with an expensive wall mount in a house I don't own and screw up the wall. And no, I got to have
when I get a house, I foresee like permanently, professionally installed HDTV and or projector in the theater.
both.
Well, considering that land, I still got a call about.
Right. We should drive over and take a look at the land.
I ran over there yesterday.
You should look at the land on Google Maps.
I didn't do that, but I know where it is. And yeah, we shouldn't talk about this on the show, but we're thinking about buying a land.
Buy some land. Buy some land.
land. Fuck spinning rims.
Fuck HDTVs. So
Well, why not just get both?
we can get both. So yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting here. All right, what I was saying about not having a house to get an HDTV, so I can't get a 360.
Because there's a hole in the bucket, not Delilah, whatever her name is.
Right, the 360 is already some years old, and even though they're updating it big time, how long until the Xbox, 460 or whatever, right? Am I
It'll have to be the
am I gonna be
970.
too late? Is it gonna be too late? And we're just
What we could do is just hold out, like I did when when the N64 was announced. I was already entrenched in PC gaming, and I kind of decided I'm going to hold out until consoles force me back in.
I was PC gaming from the end of the 16-bit era to the GameCube, to the GBA. Well, I guess portable gaming. I've from the GBA, from the Game Boy Color on, I was in portable gaming. But until the GameCube, I was out of console gaming from 16-bit to GameCube. So that whole 64, PlayStation, Saturn.
I see
was
the way
not
our
in
lives
there.
are going. We're not going to get in on the Xbox 360, but I foresee being
The thing is, I look and some of the stuff they've got, they're going to come out with a sequel to Galaga on the 360.
Yeah. But what they're going to do is eventually there will be the Xbox 970 or whatever the next one is.
9,000?
It's over 9,000. And all we'll have to do is get in on the ground floor of that, because by then we'll be idly rich.
Hopefully. And hopefully everything that works on the 360 will be forwards compatible, and the 9,000 will be backwards compatible. Then I'll be all right, because I'll still be able to play the Carcassonne that I missed out on. Of course, no one else will be playing it.
Yeah.
But I'll play Naked Uno. Fun.
Oh, God.
All right.
I'll play some Naked Uno.
All right, so you got any news that
I do.
besides saying the same thing you've said before about
But actually,
VMware?
I had one more thing to say about the thing you said, but I'll say it real quick. I have a feeling that in the end, the Xbox 360 with the Roku downloadable content, especially if the barely a rumor that I could eventually see Hulu getting in on this in some sort of partnership.
Hulu's definitely got to make with some kind of action.
But
'cause-
imagine if Netflix does this on the Xbox and with the Roku, for grandmas and people like us, and then Hulu gets in on that. The Xbox 360 and the Roku are going to do for downloadable on-demand media exactly what the PS2 did for DVD.
See, I think Sony has to go and find some sort of streaming video action now to compete.
What are they going to do though? Because it's already all everything I want.
The thing
is
is,
already
Sony
available.
does, unlike Microsoft,
No, if
which
I were
has to
Sony-
outsource its media empire, Sony has the media empire they also own.
Yes.
And Sony is just horribly bad at getting parts of their company to cooperate. Like, one arm of the company is like, let's make computer parts. The other part of the company is like, don't make anything they can copy. It's like they're simultaneously making MP3 players and also putting out DRM. And it's like, what's wrong with you?
The other trouble is that the best course of action would be for all the Sony companies to deny their media to all of these downloadable things and have their own Sony thing. But one, if they really did that, I have a feeling that there would be lawsuits and antitrust business in the long run. And two, I feel like what the other possibility is that as media kind of gets more balkanized, people would just issue anything Sony because they wouldn't care.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, though. Are there any Sony pictures available on the Netflix streaming, instant queue service? And if so, you watch them on your 360. That's incredibly ironic.
I don't know. If I were Sony, I would try to just buy out Hulu outright.
It's so many hands in that one.
I know, but that's why it might not be
And
possible.
that's the reason the Hulu's kind of good is because you got Fox in there, you got a little Viacom in there. It's all mixed up, and that's why it's so great.
I just think it might be too late for Sony to do anything. I think Microsoft and Nintendo.
So the thing is, Sony is just such a large beast, especially for the 80s.
But Microsoft is a large beast too.
No, but the thing is that they're so large. I think that like Sony sometime around like maybe 4 or 5 years ago was like shot dead in the head, and now it's just taking forever for it to fall down because it's so high up.
Running around like a chicken without a head?
No, it died. It's just completely unconscious. It's just falling. It's just taking a long time because
you killed a giant so big.
It's real tall, and it takes like years for it eventually to land on the ground.
What I could foresee, but this is totally me as Rim speculating, and I'm not making any prediction as to market whatever, but I could see Sony in the long run just either the technology wings of it will just break away, or the technology wings, somehow they will divest themselves of all the interests that are counter to where the future is, as in everything that relies on IP.
Yeah, they either need to have all their different businesses separate. That way, they won't, fuck themselves.
Keep them separated.
Because if they do that, then each individual business part can actually do its job to the best of its ability without being hindered by the other ones. The MP3 people will be able to make the best MP3 players without the media wing fucking them up. Or they actually need to partner up properly and boost each other. Because right now, it's just every part of Sony hurts every other part of Sony.
Right. So, in much more bullshitty news, a lot's been happening with eBay lately. Now,
eBay.
I will qualify this by saying that I have an eBay account that I have not logged into in almost 2 years.
I have an eBay account. I use it incredibly rarely. Like maybe once in a blue moon I'll buy something, and I think once ever I sold something, and it was okay, but it wasn't worth the effort.
3 times I bid on something on eBay, and once I tried to sell something, and the experience was generally unpleasant. Like, eBay is not fun to use. I really don't like everything about eBay is just kind of, it's always a little bit shady and a little bit like 1990s.
Well, really, you have to think about, look how successful like phishing is, right? Where they just send you an email that says, go to paypool.com, right? There's something wrong with your account.
Paypool.
Right. And, that totally works on people. So eBay, it's really, for me at least, it's really easy to tell fraud apart from not fraud.
I'm not worried about fraud. I see the fraud all the time. It's laughable.
And it's real easy to sort out what's BS and what's not. The thing is so, it's like 90% of what goes on eBay is not BS. That's because, the detection of BS is pretty simple. But it's still like, it looks like a mess. It's not clean. Apple really needs to go in there and shine it up for them because it's just really messy and it's not pleasant.
Yeah, and I avoid eBay because it's kind of scummy and kind of bland.
Yeah. You don't go there because you want to. You go there because you need to. Because you can't find what you want anywhere else.
Kind of like a Walmart.
I don't go to Walmart for any reason.
I have been to Walmarts a couple of times out of necessity. When I was in Arizona, that was the only place to go. When I was in North Carolina, that was the only place to go at 3 a.m. to get Red Bull. And
eBay
you know what?
is sort of like the place to go to buy something if it's not available from if you can't find it on Amazon and you can't find it anywhere else, go to eBay.
But it was more than
it'll be there somewhere.
It's like most of the while I dislike a lot of Walmart's business practices, I can't put the full-on hate on Walmart because they're not that much worse than Target or any of those other stores.
That's not the reason I don't go there.
I know, but that's the thing. So, both of us are down on Walmart, but for different reasons. We're down on them partly because I don't like any one entity having so much control over entertainment media.
It's not just entertainment media.
Well, yeah, but entertainment media is the one that I think they have the most undue control.
Perhaps.
But also, on a purely visceral level, it is unpleasant to be in a Walmart. The people
also.
And the atmosphere I really don't like being in Walmarts. And I feel really uncomfortable.
Well, how about Walmart.com?
I've never actually been to Walmart.com.
It just looks like you just buy stuff.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's not the kind of stuff I'd buy online.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, they sell everything, though, so.
Yeah, but so does Amazon.
I know, right?
And I like Amazon.
I like Amazon, too.
In fact, I've realized that I buy about half of what I buy that isn't food. Well, you know what? If I don't count food, I probably buy a good 80% of what I buy on Amazon.
You can buy food on Amazon.
I know, but I don't. Anyway, so eBay, so all that aside, this is an old story, but a while ago, they got sued in France over.
Oh.
Now, the story was that they got sued over the fact that they were selling counterfeit goods like Christian Dior or Louis Vuitton or all those other
What'd you say? Hubba-dibba-doo?
Yeah, the hibbity-hoobities.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
You know, $8 million handbags and 1 ounce of perfume that cost $100,000.
So wait, so someone on eBay wasn't selling anything. Someone went on eBay and sold something that looked like $1 million handbag, but was actually a $5 handbag. And
Perhaps it was a Versace.
and they sold it for and they were selling it for $20.
So here's the deal.
So it was the fake Versace.
Part of it was that they were selling legitimate fake Versace Disney crossovers.
Okay.
Wow, that's some inside baseball.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, so they're selling the fake Versace. And sorry.
Is this real? No. Oh man, awesome.
All right, there's this movie called Kamikaze Girls. You'd probably like it.
Yeah, Suicide
Anyway,
Girls is different.
Different thing.
Very different.
Right. So they were, people were selling possibly illegitimate designer goods on eBay.
All right.
So the French court said, stop that. We're suing you. You have to pay us 40 million euros.
It's not eBay's fault.
Well,
Go
here's the
after the
thing.
people selling it.
The French court ruled, yes, it's eBay's fault.
All right.
And here's the thing.
I would just close down eBay France. How much money can eBay France be making?
Well, if they're selling all this Versace.
I guess.
But here's the thing.
I guess eBay is profiting.
No.
They are profiting from the fake Versace.
Save your indignation. The primary impetus here was not that they were selling illegitimate Versace,
All right.
but that they were selling real Versace.
They're not allowed to have real Versace.
Apparently, France does not have the right of first sale, which is one of the most important consumer protections in the world.
So there's no tag sales in France. Is that what you're saying?
I guess there are, but apparently Louis Vuitton, Malletier, I don't know, all these, all those designer Versaces. We're saying that people were selling their goods on eBay, but the people selling them were not authorized sellers, and therefore they shouldn't be allowed to.
All right. So
And
something
the French
like
court basically said, "All right, eBay, you owe us 40 million euros."
But by that law, something like eBay cannot possibly exist in France. I would just close down eBay France.
Because eBay can sell. You can sell whatever you want on eBay, except for things that are protected by these other things, like the Kirby vacuums. They have this thing where they say you can't sell a Kirby vacuum ever, but you see them on eBay a lot because they can't enforce that. Humans have a right to first sale in the U.S.
Yep.
Apparently,
citizens have a right to first sale in the U.S.
Well, I technically humans do too. I think.
know, but
Well, you see what I was doing there. I said humans because apparently in France, But yes, apparently the French don't have the right to first sale and these sorts of things. And I think eBay's argument against this is absolutely brilliant. Basically, they said, quote, "Today's ruling is about an attempt to protect uncompetitive commercial practices at the expense of consumer choice and the livelihood of law-abiding sellers."
Yeah, pretty much. Anyone
We
who
will
doesn't
fight
realize
this ruling. We are seeking to leave to appeal.
the right to first sale means that if you buy something, like if I go to the store and I buy a book, I'm allowed to sell the book to someone else. That's the right of first sale. Not having that means if you buy something, it's yours and you can throw it out, but you can't give it away or sell it or anything.
Now,
You're not allowed to sell it.
We're not lawyers, so we won't go into this any further, but in terms of technology, first sale, there's a lot of rumbling in the legal world. And think of this. Right now, Microsoft doesn't let you resell licenses of their software.
Yeah, if I buy a copy of Windows, I can't sell that copy of Windows to RIM. That's because I'm not actually buying Windows. I'm buying a Windows license.
And there's all this like
I'm
Adobe,
just signing a contract with Microsoft. I'm not purchasing a copy like I'm
lot of
purchasing a
software,
copy of a book.
Their EULAs say that you can't sell the software to other people, but there have been some court cases that are going slowly in the direction of first sale, bitches. And let me tell you, when the day comes when you can buy last year's version of Adobe for $5 on eBay,
Yeah,
I look forward to that.
Think
day.
about that. That'll mean that someone, a professional design place, right? They buy Adobe software. Then because they're so professional, they got to have the new version. They upgrade, right? But they have these old versions that they still own. They're allowed to sell them. There'll be mad illegal used software market going around, and the pirated used software market will go away or be severely damaged.
Now, the
Because
argument,
people would much rather, I believe, that people would much rather pay, say, $50 for a legitimate but used copy of, say, Adobe, Illustrator,
Hell, I'd be
than
willing
pay
to-
$5 for a shady one.
I'd be willing to pay $50 for a copy of Cool Edit Pro that was legitimate.
I know, right?
Yeah.
People would like having the safety of legitimate software, but when the price is prohibitive, they'll resort to piracy. But
And it's the
if
same
there was
kind
a
of-
legitimate legal used market like there is with video games, people would go for that.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, the arguments that the software companies
Software
make is
companies would be screwed.
they say you'll put us out of business. It's unfair, but you know what?
You should have a business model that matches the real world.
If reselling a software license is unfair, then selling a car or a book is also unfair. The fact that I can go to a used bookstore or a used CD store and buy
Or
an
a
old
used car
CD
lot.
for $1 is
Used car lots not putting the car lots out of business. Used video game sales are keeping the video game stores in business, not putting them out.
Well, the thing
Without
is-
the used sales, they'd be screwed by the Best Buys.
yeah, well, no, they'd be screwed by Amazon.
That too.
But luckily, there's some good news because here in the good old United States of America, there was a similar lawsuit made by Tiffany's against eBay. And
Wait, they were saying you're selling Tiffany's that are actually Tiffany's?
now this one was because we have first sale here, so they couldn't do that. Instead, it was pretty much
You're selling fake Tiffany's?
you're allowing people to sell fake Tiffany's. You have to stop it. And the court ruled unambiguously. And pretty much, I think the quote some lawyer said was, it was a home run. Fuck you, Tiffany's. eBay doesn't have to do shit for you.
See, now, if I was Tiffany's, first of all, I wouldn't have had a lawyer so dumb to try that. What I would have had is I would have said the lawyers find these sellers and go after them.
Well, here's the thing. This is a 4-year-old lawsuit that finally came to fruition.
Wasted 4 years on that.
No, this was in federal court, and the U.S. District Court in Manhattan. It pretty much.
That's where Tiffany's is.
This has gone beyond just this Tiffany's thing because what this has done is very much strengthened the case that if a company has a trademark, or possibly in the end this might be able to be extended to intellectual property in general, it is their responsibility to police it, not resellers, not ISPs, not anything like that. So you can't sue YouTube for showing a video. You can sue the person who put the video on YouTube, and you can go after YouTube if they don't take it down with reasonable notice and all that business.
Well, that's what YouTube does is if you're, say, Disney, they actually give you a special account that lets you go around finding Disney things and getting rid of them. It's like, do it yourself. We're not doing it for you. That's what they do.
So eBay totally
So
won
eBay
this.
should do a similar thing. They should say, all right, Versace, here's your special eBay account. You can go around looking for Versaces and getting them off there.
Now,
We're not doing it for you.
To quote from this article on Yahoo, I figure I should cite my source at least a little bit. The judge, in a 66-page decision following a non-jury trial in the U.S. District Court of Manhattan
Those
last November,
66 pages. God, his arm must be dying.
said that he was, quote, not unsympathetic, unquote.
Wait, not unsympathetic?
To Tiffany's-
In other words, he was sympathetic.
No. He was not. Judges say that a lot.
Uh-huh.
That phrase, not unsympathetic, it's kind of, here's what I do. Say your car blew up and you tried to make me buy you a new car. I would basically say, while I am not unsympathetic to your claim and your pain and your suffering and your loss, I'm not buying you a new car.
Well, couldn't you just say, I'm sympathetic to your claim and avoid the double negative?
No, because there's reasons. But anyway, while he was not
You have my
unsympathetic,
sympathies, but I'm not giving you money.
quote the article, he said the law was clearly on eBay's side.
There you go.
It is the trademark owner's burden to police its mark, and companies like eBay cannot be held liable for trademark infringement based solely on their generalized knowledge of that trademark infringement that might be occurring on their websites.
Okay, now here's a question. Ready for this question? This is tough.
I'm ready.
So, you get a trademark, right? It's your responsibility to police the trademark. Let's say you're small town Joe. You trademarked, like you want to start like a franchise of
Scott, the answer is you're fucked.
right, because it's the cost of policing a trademark. Even if you're just small time guy or big time guy, the cost of policing any trademark with the internet and technology and the world being so large and society being so huge is so prohibitive
Well, at the same
that
time,
it becomes actually impossible, even for a gigantic company. Thus, is trademarks if you require people to
At the same time, it's not quite that bad, because what you can do, as far as I've seen, this is what we at Geeknights would be doing, because while we will have a lawyer on retainer, we will not be using said lawyer every day. But, if in the future with trademarks and all that, because, our common law trademark will eventually become a real trademark and all this sort of business, but we would send out takedown notices, and we would send down, cease and desist orders and all these things written on our own, and keep paper trails and all that. And that way, if someone refused to bring it down, we have this paper trail. And then we go to a lawyer, and you can do kind of some of this preliminary work, I would imagine, on your own, and then the lawsuit only if someone fails to comply.
Yeah, but it's a lot of work, like, to do all that.
You know what?
Keep up with it and
what?
police it 100%.
I will say this: if you are not willing and able to at least put forth some basic level of due diligence, then you do not deserve a trademark. That's the way the world is today.
Yeah.
Trademarks should be a special and somewhat rare thing, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's going to get to the point where it's impossible to pretty much have a trademark and keep it enforced at the same time.
Anyway, we went on a while there, so things of the day. This is something I think is super cool. Obviously, they're not building it yet, but it looks like California might actually be getting a usable, workable, downtown to downtown bullet train.
Bullet train?
Yes, bullet train. The NIMBYs lost. Everyone in the way lost. That pretty much is going to come down to a bond vote in November, and there's still a lot of political shenanigans going on around this, but there's a good chance that this $40 billion project is going to, sorry. I think it's $226 billion.
That's about right.
Well, there's all these different figures, because that larger figure includes a whole bunch of other projects and public works and things, but regardless, California and the West are very likely in the next decade going to get a serious, awesome, modern bullet train, and I am so excited about this.
Well, because people on the West Coast, they don't know from trains. So it's like, now they're going to get like a real deal train that'll actually be useful to them.
Well, the thing is, we need this in the East Coast too, and we could have it if it weren't for the NIMBYs.
Yep.
I mean, look how much the NIMBYs fought giving Metro North one more station on already existing, already in use tracks, and the station was already in use too.
Mm-hmm.
It was an Amtrak station on the Metro North. All they had to do was make the Poughkeepsie train go one stop further north, and the people in Rhinebeck said, no, we don't want people commuting from here. Luckily, they're going to do it anyway, but...
It's all right.
Yeah, I think this is cool, so that's all I have to say about that.
That was your thing of the day, a train?
Yeah, I'm kind of a rail buff. I really like railroads and trains.
All right. So check this out, right? How many video games have you played? I mean, you played TF2, you play...
Yes, 2.
Tribes
3.
2, you play Natural Selection, I hope 2. And all these games have some sort of sentry gun, right? Aliens, the movie. It's a gun that just stands there in one spot, but if it can get line of sight on you, it will shoot you with whatever it shoots.
I think that the Natural Selection sentry gun is the best stylistically.
Definitely.
Because it feels so much like the Alien one.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely the Alien one.
Man, that scene in Alien with that ammo counter. I want to watch that movie again right now.
Is it on the Roku?
I don't know. I'll look.
Anyway, so... things like this are definitely technologically feasible. I mean, you pretty much use a camera, some sort of motion detection, which is pretty simple, visual calculus there. Image processing to figure out, I got one frame, and in this frame, these pixels are different than in the last frame. Therefore, something over there moved.
No, it's totally not. Neither is Alien Nation or Alien 3. Anyway,
and then you can, have some sort of calibration, like how many things change, and then something's there, and the whole thing. And then you just trigger something to fire, which is also pretty trivial. And many times we've seen people, I've seen YouTube videos of sentry guns people have made, or, military contractors showing things off, and nothing has really impressed me. I've seen these sentry guns are really like, wow, that's a real sentry gun. Until now, this guy made a briefcase sentry gun that has paintballs. It's a paintball gun. It's not a real gun, but you could switch it.
Well, there's laws about man traps in the
There are.
U.S.
But it's a briefcase. He opens it up. There's a laptop. He turns it on, and the gun activates. In anything that enters, if the gun's sort of viewing area gets shot at. And in this video, what's really impressive is he doesn't just show the gun, like hitting a basketball before it hits the ground, or, shooting at this guy as he peeks out from behind a wooden board and, aiming at his head. He's wearing a paintball mask. He's all right. He knows he's going to get hit. He's doing it for demonstration purposes. The guy tries to distract it by throwing his stick to one direction and running in the other direction. It shoots at the stick, then turns to shoot at him. It's pretty good. I'm very, very impressed with what they've been able to do here.
Actually, that's a really interesting... Think of the logic here, right? So say you're making one of these for the military or, to keep aliens out. You want it to shoot anything that moves in the radius, right? But you don't want to just shoot at one thing. You want it to kind of have some sort of logic of, all right, I tracked that object, I shot it, it's probably dead, I will move on to another target.
Well, I think what it is it's like he threw the stick, but him moving was many more pixels moving more quickly than the stick, so you could have some sort of logic to prioritize the targets if there are many of them.
Oh, yeah.
I'd really like to see them do something sort of crazy, like get a big piece of paper and draw all over it, and then put the gun out and then wiggle the piece of paper so it looks like there's stuff moving all over the place and see what it would shoot at. I don't know. Just an idea. But yeah.
I don't know. I've always liked sentry guns. I tried to make them with varying success as a kid.
This is pretty impressive. And if I was a guy who owned a paintball place, I would requisition these people to make a bunch of these for me. Perhaps, a little more, sturdy in plastic boxes, not just, crappy briefcases with laptops sticking up, something that won't get damaged, something that'll be easier to use. And, deploy them on my paintball grounds, and it'd be kind of fun.
Maybe some sort of, you have them defending like a base, because capture the flag paintball is actually kind of lame, and I like...
That is a good idea. If you had some sort of base versus base paintball, but... you put one of these sort of at the main entrance to the base, therefore, encouraging a different kind of play because people aren't going to be sitting there just covering the entry to the base the whole time.
Well, no, what I do is I'd put them kind of protecting the goal, whatever the mission objective is, but there'd be the secondary objective of the switch that turns that thing on and off. So you have to storm that outpost, take the switch, turn the sentry off, and then you got to guard the switch so the enemy team doesn't come and turn it back on.
That's pretty good.
You know why I thought of that?
Oh, I got an even better idea.
That thing happened to me in Tribes 2 yesterday.
Here's a good idea. You ready? You have a sentry in the middle of the field, right? And it's off. And there's a switch in some sort of outpost, right? And your actual goal is something else. But if you get the switch pulled to your team's side, the gun will aim at the enemy team and shoot them. And vice versa. And make it color sensitive. So everyone wears red or everyone wears blue. That's not too hard.
So anyway, tonight, we're going to talk kind of briefly, because we want to long in the rest of it, about my brand new BlackBerry Curve.
Really? How is it?
It's okay.
Yeah? What does it do?
Google Reader and GPS, Google Maps, and that's totally it.
Really? Yeah. I don't do Google Reader on my iPhone.
No, don't you?
Well, I guess there. Let me try going to reader.google.com. I didn't try to go there because I haven't used Google Reader in a long time.
There's no Google Reader app for the iPhone?
No, there is not. The only Google app is a Google search app.
Because they actually made a Google Reader app for the Curve, that is the only thing that makes my Curve useful outside of work and GPS.
That is the one thing that I sort of knew about the iPhone when I bought it, right? Is that, basically what I knew is, it's sort of like I knew something, I got the phone, and I found out I was right. Is that the iPhone does everything, except it doesn't do the Google as well as the Android phone probably will. And I use Google heavily, like Google Apps and whatnot. But it does everything else just great. So let's see. A lot of other places. I mean, it's been iPhone talk for 2 weeks, and it's going to be iPhone talk until next week. So I kind of I don't want to say anything that's been said elsewhere. I want to sort of stick to things that no one else is going to, say. Because otherwise, why are we doing iPhone coverage?
Yes,
really...
Scott's not going to talk about you zoom in like this and the 3G works like this.
It's kind of lame to do iPhone coverage in the first place because there's just so much of it out there, right? But anyway, I went to get the iPhone on Friday, last Friday, and I wasn't stupid like everybody else waiting at the Apple store or showing up at 7:30. I went and I was at the AT&T store 1 block away from the Apple Store. I got there around 6:15, so maybe I waited 90 minutes, a little more. And there were 5 guys in line in front of me. That was it. At 8 o'clock, they came out, and they're like, 6 people, come right in. Now, my boss, he came and got in line with me later because he lives right around there. So he was 7th in line, which is good because he was transferring his number from Sprint, and his contract was up long ago. Like, he's had it for years and years and years. And so he took like 45 minutes. I only took like 5 minutes. I went in, I talked to the guy, I said I wanted a brand new plan, brand new number, give me the phone, okay. The phones are preloaded with SIM cards. The SIM card in my phone must have been busted, so he just took another SIM card, switched it out, and it was all good. And I've had no problems. I know some people are having problems with the activation. They got to the store too late. I know some people are having problems waiting in line. They went to an Apple store instead of an AT&T store, and they went at a bad time.
Dude, I saw people lined up today.
Yeah, people were lying. I went to the Apple store today to try to buy some accessories. I was half successful. And there were people lined up for the iPhone, but there was a special sort of iPhone corner of the store, but you could roam around the rest of the store. But anywhere in the store, there was like the area of the store where they were selling iPhone protective thingies. Stupidly crowded, couldn't get near there because it was a little tight little corner and people were crammed in. It was not good. But yeah, I got the phone and it works. It's everything that everyone said it is. The thing that really I think is most impressive about it is that, again, something I knew already, but actually in reality is much more impressive once you actually have it, is not... There's not any one particular thing that it does that is incredibly amazing. Oh, actually, the baseball thing is kind of amazing. And some of the Urban Spoon thing is kind of amazing. It's the number of things it does and does well. Because I mean, think about it, right back in the day, they started coming with the camera phones and the music phones. And people's complaint was, I'd rather have 3 separate things if it does the separate thing well than have one thing that's supposed to do 5 things but does them all shittily. It's like, the attitude was, if I can have a good phone and a good MP3 player and a good camera, why would I buy one device that is a shitty phone, a shitty camera, and a shitty MP3 player? What's the point, right? The iPhone, why it's so impressive, even compared to other devices like Blackberries or Nokia things, is that it is so many things, but it is well at all of those things. Too well. And it has...
I believe you mean good.
No, I mean well.
It is well?
Yes, it is quite well. Yes. And the other thing is that unlike, say, the Nokia N95, the integration between the different things is also super impressive. So when you open up Urban Spoon, right? Urban Spoon is one of the apps you can get from the App Store. You tell it a city. All right, so I'll choose New.
Try to find some Mexican food in Beacon.
Right. So you can't do Beacon. You can only do major cities.
Yeah.
So I pick New York City. I choose a neighborhood, Harlem. I choose a type of food, Korean. I choose a price. I don't care about the price, so I'm not going to choose a price. Then I shake the iPhone. Shake. Come on, shake. There we go.
And then a noise.
Up. I can go to the Wawa Canteen. All right, so I touch Wawa Canteen. It says, serves Korean. 54% of people like it. That's the phone number and the address.
54%.
I know, it's a pretty bad place. But at least I know it's a bad place, right? If I touch that phone number, it calls them. If I touch that address, it shows the Google map of exactly where they are. I can then push the GPS button and push the directions button. It will give me directions from my current location to there. It does all these things, but it ties them all together in a way that makes... I mean, if you had to do this on, say, the Nokia, right? Okay, so you'd go to a website, right? Or you'd install some sort... I don't even think there's an Urban Spoon application, but let's be generous and say there is. Okay, so there's an application. It tells you the restaurant. Then you got to go and open up, the maps thing separately and type the address in. And it has it might have a little better keyboard than the iPhone does, but... It doesn't, and can you really, can the Nokia or any of those other devices, you search for something, there's a phone number, you touch the phone number and it calls them? That doesn't happen. I don't see that action anywhere.
I just generally, using my Curve, it really can't do anything well other than the BlackBerry thing of push email.
Right. And that's the thing is I had a BlackBerry, a pretty good one, 5000 series something, when I was working at that other company. And it did email pretty well. And if I really needed it badly, I could open up the web browser, like in an emergency. And there was actually an SSH client that wasn't free, but it wasn't bad. I just didn't pay for it. And there was actually a Gmail application, but it didn't work because I used Gmail for domains. And the Google Maps was a little but it kind of worked. And it, technically speaking, had a zillion features, perhaps almost as many as the iPhone, except, of course, for the video and the audio features. And the thing was, though, is because the features were sort of had a bad interface, they might as well not have been there. I have a cell phone, right, that I haven't canceled or done anything with yet. I didn't port my number. I got a new AT&T, and it has a web browser. It has an MP3 player. It can take videos. It has a camera. It has a shit ton of stuff, almost as much as the smartphones do. It has a calculator in there, all kinds of shit. None of it might as well not be there. The only thing the phone is good for is making calls, because despite having all those features, the interface of those features is so bad and so painful that it's not even worth using. You might just don't do it. No, you don't. This is why, and to prove that this is actually going on, if you look at statistics, right, of all phones, a very small percentage of phones out there, mobile phones, are smartphones. And I think like 19% of smartphones are iPhones right now. So you're looking at like 1 in 5 of a very small segment are iPhones. There's not many of them out there. Now look at the web traffic that is going to websites from mobile devices. Any mobile device, no matter what. Like over 50% of web traffic to from mobile devices is from iPhones. That tells you that even though pretty much every phone out there has a web browser of some kind, I mean, the BlackBerry's got one, Nokia's have one, Symbian, Windows Mobiles have one, even my crappy cell phone has one. People aren't using them, except for the people who have iPhones are actually using mobile Safari because it's actually usable. I mean, on the PC, we'll often complain about Apple because on the PC, there's like this expectation that you should be able to do whatever you want. And you're willing to suffer a little bad interface. Like I'm using Handbrake. The interface is not so great. I'm using, some other Windows applications. Interface is not perfect. Linux, a lot of things, command line interface, which is good a lot of times, but also bad sometimes. But it doesn't bother me because a mouse and a keyboard and a big screen, you can get through that. You can still manage to use the crappy interface at a comfortable level.
But on that tiny little screen, not so much. On
a tiny little screen, sure, I have to give up the fact that it's open. I know that. I'm not going to be able to do whatever I want with it. There is an unfulfilled potential, just like the unfulfilled potential of the Wii. But because the interface is actually good, even though it might not have features that some other devices have on paper in the tech specs, in reality, it has 1 billion times more features than any of those things because the features it has are actually usable. If you have a phone that can do 100 things badly and painfully, and a phone that can do 5 things really easily, the phone that does the 5 things properly is the phone you're going to get because in reality, it does 5 more things than the other phone when you get right down to it, in practical speaking.
So is there anything like that is bad about it right now that isn't working right for you?
Well, we got the Exchange worked out, which was something that was mostly the Works Exchange server was kind of
we're
crappy.
testing all that now.
All right, but we got it to work. We just need to get the SSL signed and that sort of thing. One annoying thing that's really bothering me is that it has a built-in calendar thing, right? But this built-in calendar thing can't really work. It works with the Mobile Me and it works with Exchange. It doesn't work with Google Calendar. And there's no technological reason that it couldn't. It could very easily, but it doesn't. And there are ways out there. There's many, many different methods of synchronizing iPhone with Google Calendar. Many of them. There's one really good one. But that really good one requires that you have a Mac. And in fact, I went to the website for this thing, and it said, "Oh, for all you Windows users, get a Mac." And I'm just like, fuck you. So, yeah, I can't use Google Calendar with it. And that's something I knew. Google integration with it is rather poor.
Yep, which is sad because Google Apps is pretty much the lifeblood of my internet right now.
It is. That's really, if I could get the Google Apps on here more seriously, I'd be much better off. Now,
hey, Google, I'd pay a lot of money just to have it work.
I know, but I think Google's more on their Android. The thing is, Google did make a search app for this. So if they're making a search app and they got their maps on here, why not put the other apps on here? Come on, there was an article I read today that was actually saying, hey, Google, keep going with the Android. That's all good. But the way Google got so big is they did the daffodil method. We don't care where these grow. We just want to grow anywhere we can possibly grow. And by not growing on the iPhone as much as they possibly could, Google is sort of missing out. But I'm not too worried about Google. Actually, I was kind of surprised. There are a lot of websites that are like specifically designed to work well on the iPhone, like Meebo.com. If you visit it on the iPhone, you would swear that it's an app. But it's not. It's actually just a website because Meebo.com is done so well. And Gmail is the same way. If I go to my Google Mail in the browser, it actually feels and looks like an app. It doesn't feel and look like a website that I'm looking at in a browser and I have to zoom in and stuff like that. It actually works properly. And there's a lot of sites like that, and they're pretty good. The thing is I also tried to set up my Google Mail through the built-in mail application, and use the IMAP. That actually worked better, I think, than visiting. Yeah. Because, sure, I can't what they did that Google was very smart about, right, is that even though I don't have the sort of interface like starring things or that sort of stuff, right, they sort of matched up the IMAP interface with the real interface. So I can't click report trash, but I can move something to the spam folder. Like report spam, but I can move something to the spam folder. And on Google's end, it reports spam. So because the email app, the default, built into the iPhone one is really good, reading my Gmails on there is not so bad. Something that is kind of bad is the camera doesn't do video, which my shitty phone did, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, but how often did you use that?
Not often, but on the iPhone, I would use it. There are things that my other phone did, but because the iPhone now does them, I do use them. You see? I have that car audio link thing that I use with my old iPod, to play music over the in-car speakers. That actually works really well with the iPhone. In fact, I think it works better with the iPhone, but it doesn't charge the iPhone, which on a long trip is going to kill me because people are right. The battery life on this, right? It won't. If you don't charge it at morning and at night, you're gonna have trouble. All right, and that's the thing is, for my average, 99% of the time, that's gonna be adequate for me.
That's not good for trips though, because the one thing about my BlackBerry is I'll take it out of town for a whole weekend. Battery will be fine the whole weekend, and then I get home and then I plug it in again.
Yep. The thing is, when I think about my real situation, right? I always travel everywhere with cords to charge everything, so that's not a problem. Okay, so let's say I go to my average day, charge it in the morning, charge it while I'm at work, charge it when I'm at home. It only really uses battery when I'm on the train. That's fine. It barely uses any battery for 2 train rides, all right? If I go to a convention, I'm not going to be pulling it out of my pocket that often, and I'll be charging it in the morning and at the night. So it'll make it through a convention.
Well, what do you mean at the night? So we get back to the room at like 4 a.m., you charge it for 4 hours, and then we're back up and at the con again.
It'll be all right. It doesn't take that long to charge. Actually, I haven't checked how long it takes to charge. That's something to look into.
I'm sure someone made a website.
I'm sure. But yeah, when you get right down to it, though, you can conserve battery life if you want by disabling the 3G radio, disabling the Wi-Fi, turning off the Bluetooth, that sort of. So you can turn the brightness down. There's a lot of ways that you can save the battery if you know you're going to be out for a long time. Don't watch videos, don't use the GPS. All right? And when you really look at the competition, look at the other smartphones that have 3G in them. The battery life is worse than the iPhone. The iPhone 3G, while it doesn't have as good battery life as the original iPhone, it beats every single other 3G smartphone.
Well, we
every
can talk a
single
lot
one.
about how 3G works, but we'll save that for another show.
3G is just faster. It means I can browse the web when there's no wireless access points.
Oh, yeah, but I'm talking about why it uses more battery specifically.
Oh, okay. Well, anything that's faster and wireless usually uses more electricity. Other things I don't like is that you can't remove the built-in apps. Like it comes with the iTunes, store. I'm never gonna buy anything from the iTunes Music Store ever, but I can't remove the icon. You see, there's a stocks app. I can't remove the icon. Actually, I think I can use the parental control setting to remove the iTunes icon, but I can't remove the stocks icon, which is like it's in the way. I want it. I sort of moved it to the other screen where I don't go so often, but it's still there. I don't know. Is there anything else really interesting to say about it? Basically, it's just so amazing the wide variety of things it does well. I mean, it's an iPod that plays audio and video amazingly. I'm so glad I got the 16 gig. I can fit 2 entire anime series on here. I have all of Evangelion and all of Escaflowne and 4 Evangelion Director's Cut episodes. I ripped them from the DVDs and I put them on here. And I have a cable that goes from this to the television. And I just tried it, and it totally works. So I can go to a hotel and plug this tiny thing into a TV and watch full anime series with no disc switching on a TV. It's just unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
So you've been watching some of that there, Escaflowne?
I watched episode 1 of the Choo Choo.
It was 45 minutes long, wasn't it? I remember the first episode is long.
It is quite long, yeah. There's an application called Twitterific that has a free version and a pay version. The pay version gets rid of the ads, but they didn't put enough ads in the free version to annoy me into paying for the non-free one. And it just uses Twitter, but having this suddenly makes the Twitter make sense for some reason. Like I'm using it like crazy. Like every time I'll turn the phone on, I'll check it.
Poop is coming out.
No, it's actually like good stuff going on now. And it's like all people, pretty much almost everyone is using the Twitterific with the Twitter now. Because everyone has the iPhones, and it's kind of crazy, and you can it's really I can take a picture of something, and then it'll add the picture to the Twitter message that I just took with the phone, and then I can push another button, and it'll add my current location to the Twitter message. So if I see something cool on the street, I take a picture, I push the button, I click send, and everyone knows that cool thing is right there, like instantly. It's pretty awesome. And this is the same thing that plays video when you plug it into a television. This is the same thing that makes phone calls. It's the same thing that browses the web, the same thing that checks email, the same thing that gets all the baseball highlights from the games as they're going on. It's the same thing that can tell you where the restaurants are. It's the same thing that I can write notes in. It's the same thing that remembers all my contacts. The same thing that runs AIM. The same thing that tells me the weather. The same thing that can remotely control the iTunes on my desktop computer when I'm lying in bed. The same thing with a calculator and a clock. And it's it looks big when they show you pictures of it, but really, I put it up next to my old cell phone, which is a flip phone. And the cell phone, when flipped closed, is actually like almost as big as this thing. Like if you could flip the iPhone in half, I think it actually takes up, it would be less space in your pocket than my flip phone. It's kind of crazy. You can also send people money with PayPal on it. I don't know.
Everyone knows that. Though.
Yeah, but it's one thing.
Yes, which is crazy. The only reason
that's the crazy thing about it. I mean, there are things it can't do. Plenty of things it can't do that it should be able to do.
For example, cunnilingus.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, like...
Wait, what?
People with the Nokias, right? They can do that quick thing where they can stream live video to the web from their phone. iPhone can't do that, right? It doesn't do the Google apps. It doesn't have turn-by-turn GPS, though that might be coming soon. There are a lot of apps that are possible that just aren't written yet. It doesn't have Flash, right? So you pretty much, the only Flash you can do is as a YouTube client. So I can watch a YouTube video, but I can't watch any other kind of Flash anything. No Flash games, no Flash videos, YouTube only. Which is actually kind of cool because I can go to a hotel, plug this in, watch YouTube on the TV. And it's the same thing that plays my podcast.
All right, on that note, because we've gone kind of long, I think we'll end it there.
Yeah, if anyone has specific questions, I'll answer them because I'm sure, there's just so many. It's crazy that there's just so many things to say about it. It's hard to say them all without being redundant with what other people have said and such. But if you can afford one and you don't have some reason to get some other smartphone instead, like your company bought you a BlackBerry or something like that, I think you should definitely go for it, at least in the United States where the competition is weak sauce.
Yeah, you don't want up in Canada with their crazy, stupid plans.
No. Yeah, the plans are they're a little bit expensive, but I'm willing to deal with. I can afford it, so I will suffer in order to get the benefit. Because what's the alternative? Stick with something that just makes calls. It's only been like 3 days. There's no way I can ever go back to that. It's already game over.
You're one of them.
Yep.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.